Thank you, Ms. Unise. For a moment of silence this evening, let's keep in mind all of our first responders and healthcare workers as we wade further into this coronavirus issue. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have before us this evening's agenda. I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda or consideration of any changes.
So moved.
For approval?
Approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Which is made by Supervisor Roberts-Lycak, seconded by Supervisor Altieri, to approve this evening's agenda. Any further questions from members of the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We had our minutes from the meeting of February 24th, 2020. I'll entertain a motion for approval or consideration of any changes.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Altieri, seconded by Supervisor Roberts-Lycak, to approve the meeting minutes from the February 24th, 2020 meeting. Any further questions from members of the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda, we have three resolutions. The first is Resolution 2020-09, a DCNR grant for the Meadow Preserve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-09, resolution for grant proposal, whereas the Township of Newtown, Delaware County, Pennsylvania recognizes that passive open space provides a habitat for wildlife, extensive pervious surfaces for stormwater recharge, and enhances the quality of people's lives by providing an environment for exercise, relaxation, rest, and revitalization through passive recreation. And whereas in 2018, Newtown Township approved a master plan for its 50-acre Newtown Meadow Preserve, called the Preserve, quote, the Preserve, that will create an excellent habitat for bird life and native plants while providing walking trails and nature observation points for the public. And whereas Newtown Township now desires to bring the approved master plan to a reality with an engineered design for the preserve. And whereas Newtown Township is prepared to match an amount up to $100,000 any funds granted by the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources to fund such fully engineered design grant. And be it resolved that Newtown Township apply to Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for a grant to fund a portion of the cost of a fully engineered design for the Newtown Meadows Preserve in accordance with the previously approved master plan for the preserve, and support thereof match dollar for dollar up to $100,000 any funds so awarded for such purpose by such agency. Resolved this day, 9th day of March 2020, and that's my resolution. That's my own thing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts-Lycak, seconded by Supervisor Altieri, to approve Resolution 2020-09 for a grant from DCNR for the Meadow Preserve. Any comments on the resolution? Any comments from general public? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next is Resolution 2020-10 for Arbor Day.
Resolution number 2010, resolution for Arbor Day. Whereas the Township of Newtown, Delaware County, Pennsylvania recognizes this special day of Arbor Day, April 24th, 2020, and encourages that it be celebrated in our community by the planting of trees and participation in the Tree City program. Whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our soil, improve the quality of our air by producing oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in the township increase property values, they enhance the economic vitality of business districts, and they beautify the entire community. And whereas Newtown Township wishes to honor this special day and encourage everyone in the township to participate. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the supervisors of the Township of Newtown, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, in regular session assembled on the 8th day of April 2019. Assembled on the 8th day. So hereby approve this resolution. Resolve this 9th day of March 2020.
Is there a second for Resolution 2020-10?
I'll second it.
Motion is made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Any further comments or questions on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next is Resolution 2020-11, promoting the use of native plants.
Whereas native plants are localized, well adapted to the local soils and climate, tend to be more insect and disease resistant, and require less watering and fertilization than non-native plants. And whereas wildlife such as birds, pollinators, and amphibians are more attracted to the native plants with which they co-evolve, and use such plants for food, cover, and rearing their young. And whereas native plants having evolved in the climate are extremely hardy and therefore have a lower maintenance and replacement cost. And whereas increased use of native plants will help create resiliency to the impacts of climate change for people and wildlife. And whereas native plants protect water quality by reducing stormwater runoff and erosion. And whereas Newtown Township has already taken action to manage its stormwater and restore watershed health, including the reduction of sediment pollution in the Crum Creek and Darby Creeks, and complying with the NPDES MS4 permit through minimum control measures. And whereas healthy ecosystems have been shown to provide therapeutic benefits to our mental well-being and physical health. And whereas native plants usage helps restore the ecological balance and biodiversity we have lost through development and can help maintain or even increase property values. And whereas the use of native plants help to preserve a local heritage. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township in the County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the Newtown Township shall make every reasonable effort to ensure that all properties owned or controlled by the township use a minimum of 80% native plants in new plantings, and to move as quickly as possible to achieve that goal. And be it further resolved that notwithstanding the foregoing, in the event that replacement of pre-existing non-native plants on properties owned or controlled by township is required or undertaken, and suitable alternatives or equivalent native plants are not available, the township may replace such native plants with similar non-invasive varieties of non-native plants. And be it further resolved that Newtown Township Environmental Advisory Council and other elected and appointed officials will educate and empower residents with the goal of transitioning at least 50% of township private properties to include no less than 20% native plants. And be it further resolved that the Board of Supervisors and other elected and appointed officials are urged to do everything in their power to bring Newtown Township closer to using a minimum of 80% native plants on all properties owned or controlled by the township, and ensure that the benefits of native plants are realized by Newtown Township residents from all walks of life. And be it further resolved that Newtown Township will avoid taking actions that could increase the use of non-native plants or delay the transition of a minimum of 80% native plants. And be it further resolved that the week beginning April 20th, 2020 be and hereby is declared Newtown Township Native Plant Week, and that the Newtown Township Environmental Advisory Council shall organize appropriate events to be held during such week to begin educating and empowering residents to appreciate and take advantage of the benefits that flow from the use of native plants. Resolved this 9th day of March 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Altieri, seconded by Supervisor Partridge to approve Resolution 2020-11, promoting the use of native plants. Any further questions from members of the board regarding this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda, we have a life-saving award. One up.
I've moved Red Cross for a long time, and I am always inspired by the story I'm about to share with you in a few minutes. It's about our everyday heroes, the people right here, helping people every day. I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to honor and celebrate with all of you the heroic actions of September 11th, 2019. So I'm going to read for you this from the American
I don't know, can you introduce yourself, though?
Yes, I forgot that part, right? I'm so excited because I got a chance to hear the story more in depth this evening, and it's really an honor to meet you. My name is Jennifer Graham. I'm Executive Director of the American Red Cross right here in Southeastern
Well, thank you.
Thank you for reminding me.
Please continue.
So on September 11th, 2019, Lieutenant Savitiski trained in American Red Cross responding to emergencies, first aid, and CPR AED for professional rescuers, helped to sustain the life of a 23-month-old child who was passive in the water at a residence right here in Newtown Square. Sergeant John Newell responded to a call at a residence for an unknown medical emergency. Upon his arrival, he was greeted by the homeowner carrying a young child in wet clothing. The mother advised the child was found passive in the pool. Sergeant Newell promptly conducted an assessment and initiated CPR on the young child. He agreed to upgrade the call to a child cardiac arrest. Lieutenant Michael Savitiski, along with additional officers, arrived on site to assist. Newtown Fire Department, Newell Emergency Medical Services arrived on scene to continue care. The child was moved to the ambulance. While en route to the hospital, Lieutenant Savitiski and Sergeant Newell continued CPR. Upon arrival, hospital ER staff took over providing care. Without a doubt, the skills learned in the American Red Cross Training Services courses helped to sustain the life of this child, who is continuing to recuperate and do well, who I understand has been here several times to make sure that they are here to still here and continue to improve. So for this act, Detective Sergeant John Newell, who couldn't be here this evening, and Lieutenant Michael Savitiski, who is here, I'm going to present you with the American Red Cross Life Saving Award for Professional Responders. This is one of the highest awards given by the Red Cross to an individual or team of individuals who saves or sustains a life by using skills and knowledge learned in a Red Cross Training Services course. This action exemplifies the highest degree of concern of one human being for another who is in distress. The certificate bears the signatures of our President and CEO of the American Red Cross, Gail McGovern, and our Board of Governors Chairman, Bonnie McKelvey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nate doesn't want to stand.
Excellent. You're up. Next, we have a presentation from Environmental Advisory Commission.
That better? Much better. I appreciate the opportunity to give you a brief overview of what we're up to. Got a lot of stuff going on right now, as demonstrated by the 3 resolutions we just put forward, and thanks a lot for passing them for us. Also, I did put together an annual report, and I missed the deadline to get it to you guys, so you'll see it next meeting. It's a lot more detailed than this presentation will be. Gonna look for, waiting for the presentation to come up. That's us.
Don't have to use hand puppets now.
All right. So EIC currently has 6 members, working on a variety of things that we think promote the stewardship of the limited natural resources we have in this township. Next slide, please. Some of the things we're working on right now and pretty much keep us busy in the springtime are working on a rain garden initiative. I'll let one of my colleagues speak about that. We're doing a native plant pop-up garden that will sit in the community at 2 different locations for a total of, I think it's 2 weeks, and I'll let Janet speak to that. We're doing Arbor Day planning, which you heard about. We're also in the process of kind of wrapping up the Greenway and Open Space Network Plan project. We should have that done in the May timeframe. And we're looking ahead at the Meadow Preserve Engineering Project, which would be the next logical step in the process to assist us in making decisions as to what to do with the Meadow Preserve. What I'll do is I'll pass this over to Cindy at this point, and she can talk about the rain garden. She's leading that effort. and then Janet will come over and talk about the pop-up garden. And at the conclusion of our presentation, we'd like to do a photo op to support really Audubon's financial contribution to what we're doing.
Hello, I'm Cindy Mahalo, 87 Hunters Run. I'm Vice Chair of the Environmental Advisory Council. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to tell you about the Rain Garden initiative we have going. This started well over a year ago when we applied for, we have another picture. Yeah. When we applied for and received, you want to go to the picture, Steve? There. A DEP Growing Greener grant to install 2 demonstration rain gardens. The EAC is working with the Department of Public Works, Newtown Square and Bloom, Chester Ridley Crum Creek Watershed Association, and the Hava Rain Garden Program from Haverford. By partnering with all these organizations, we can tap into their experience, their expertise, extend our resources, and have access to best practices. In the picture on the screen, you can see what a rain garden looks like. A lot of people don't understand. A rain garden is basically a bowl-shaped depression in the ground, which is strategically planted to capture water that either runs from a downspout, sheet flows off the side of a street or a parking lot, or from some other source, and it captures the water due to its location, its grading. The soil has been loosened and the soil is planted with carefully selected native plants which can thrive on being inundated with water in the middle or a little drier on the edge. They are considered to be best practice in green infrastructure. Controlling stormwater is everyone's responsibility. Joint action and innovative best practices can help the township meet its MS4 pollution reduction plan. Green infrastructure such as rain gardens, bioswales, and other plant-based materials and installations are now considered best practice by organizations such as the Villanova University Stormwater Partnership, the City of Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Water Department. We're modeling our program after what has been employed in the City of Philadelphia for many years. The City of Philadelphia is considered a global leader in the use of green infrastructure. It's found to be more economical and have other benefits that make it worth using. Rain gardens are effective in controlling both the stormwater quantity and quality. Our 2 rain gardens will be located on township property, one right outside the entrance here, the other in the Little League complex. These 2 locations were strategically selected for maximum impact to hit different population groups within the township so that we can maximize public awareness and education. The EAC sees that it can play a very important role in supporting the MS4 implementation by contributing to 2 of the MCM's, minimum control measures, which focus on public education and public awareness. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Janet Cravanes. I'm a 37-year resident at 23 Paper Mill Road in Newtown Square. And it is my pleasure to be a member of the Environmental Advisory Council. I'm here today to talk about our native plant pop-up garden, which is an event that's going to be opening up on April the 21st. This is during the Earth Week. And this is a program that has been supported by 2 grants that we have received from Audubon, one from Pennsylvania Audubon and the other one from Valley Forge Audubon, to support this project. We call it a pop-up garden because it's really going to stay in its pots and be just a temporary garden so that we can introduce our residents to the native plants that are good for our habitat, for our environment here. And you might say, well, why is it important to have native plants? And I wanted to bring your attention back to one of our reasons in the native plant resolution, which you so kindly have adopted for us, which really shows for our residents how important and how we as a township support native plants here in Newtown Square for our own health and our own environment. But in number 2, it talks about wildlife such as birds, pollinators, and amphibians. And here is some facts that I found astounding. Our lawns that we manicure nicely are really deserts for birds and butterflies. The Mojave Desert is better for wildlife than our lawns are. Whereas if we plant native plants, the amount of that co-evolved with insects, the amount of insects that are supported by native plants is really outstanding, in that the white oak can support 537 species of insects, and goldenrod 115. And you might say, well, why do we want our insects? And the next fact, that it takes a chickadee family 5,000 insects to raise its 3 clutch of chicks to maturity. So it really is important that we have those native plants and that support the native insects. So the last part of the resolution is that we, as the Town Environmental Advisory Council, is tasked with the job of educating our public, and that's what our native pop-up garden is going to do. It's going to be right out on the Caruso corner, Ellis and Bishop Hollow. We are in design with 2 horticulturalists from Tyler who have volunteered their time to help us design it. And Steve Mastardi has volunteered to supply the native plants for our pop-up garden. So we're really so happy that so much of our community is involved in this event. There will be planting going on April the 18th and the 19th. The opening event is a lecture given by Vince Smith, who's the president of Valley Forge Audubon. He'll be talking about converting his yard into a native plant garden. And Cindy Mulholland, our steward of the watershed, is going to be talking about the importance of controlling our water. At our closing event on May the 6th, we will have a table event. There are organizations such as Willistown Conservation, the Sustainable Business Organization that will be here. We're going to have some light refreshments. Our librarian has made a list of the books that are available for native plants. And so we just hope that you will come out and join us on one or more of those nights. The garden will be out and visible, and then it's going to move to St. Albans Circle for another period of time. So we're really excited. I'm really excited to have this opportunity. You might be aware that I was the bird woman who came in here last year, and we passed Year of the Bird. So thank you very much.
Checking the dates.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. We have for you tonight, our supervisors, a native plant of health fund that has been donated by students. And of course, a little
Excellent.
And we would like at this point to do our photo op. I'm hoping this.
Cindy, or Jan, let's hold off a little bit till I conclude here. Okay. Next slide, please, Steve. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. I'm here to talk about the three other items on our list. The first is the Arbor Day. This is the annual planting of about 10 trees involving about 30 or so volunteers, the purpose of which really twofold. One is to benefit from those trees that are planted, and secondly, to encourage residents to plant their own trees, because trees are kind of fundamental to our health in this township, in any township. And that's going to, the Arbor Day planting is scheduled for April 25th. That's a Saturday, and it's rain or shine unless it's horrendous. But we're going to do it. The second one is Greenway. This is the project that I'm actually most familiar with. We're 9 months into conducting a study of township open space, trail opportunities, and street crossings that complement the trails that may be proposed. At the end of this study, what we'll have is a catalog of all the potential trails opportunities that it has. We'll also have the recommendation of the consultant as to how those trails should be configured, what amenities, what surface, and they're also going to be providing costs for the different trail segments. And then finally, the committee that we formed will assist the consultant in prioritizing which of these trails make the most sense, which offers the best bang for the buck. As I mentioned, we'll be done that in the May timeframe. The third thing we're working on, or in a position to work on, is the Meadows evaluation. Step one is a proposal. We're going to do what's necessary, working with township personnel or whomever gets involved to meet the mid-April deadline to submit that proposal. And that's tied to that resolution you just passed for the matching of the DCNR grant. Finally, why are we doing this? Because it really makes it, one more, Steve, I hesitated and he tried to get me done. We're doing this because it's the logical next step in the process to, I'll call it development, but developing the preserve. Deciding what trails, what amenities, there's a need for a switchback to access the trail network that's already there. And when we finish this plan, we're again, the Meadows plan, we're again be in a position to make resource decisions as to what we want to invest in to maximize the benefit of the Meadows to the township. That's what I have. Just thanks a lot for your time. We enjoy the work that we're doing. We like the support that we get from you guys. It's important. We're always up for suggestions. Call or email us.
Bruce, we are very appreciative of your efforts and the efforts of the entire council on behalf of the environment, because we think that's what really makes, part of what makes quality of life in Newtown Square great is the work that you guys do in helping keeping us aware of what we're supposed to be doing and all those things that you're doing. I mean, the Meadow Preserve, the trails, the Greenway open space, these are all critical things identified in our master plan that we want to make sure that we get accomplished. So thank you for all the time and effort that you guys have put in for us.
We're glad to do it.
Thank you.
Photo op time, just a
We
second.
can do that.
So we wanted to wrap them in something that would be usable, not plastic. So you can go to the grocery store and
Mr. Nish, you're going to talk to us about tax reassessment.
I can get this. All right. So, let me do one other thing real quick. My understanding is probably most of you have received in the mail your 2021 tax reassessment. And when you received that, there was probably a certain level of shock, I would say, in that if you knew what your current assessment was today, my guess is that most people's have at least gone up anywhere from 50 to 200% in that. And so I thought it was important to take a couple moments here at the public meeting and talk about this. But in addition to that, we have advertised for 3 additional public meetings. This Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, we're going to have a public meeting right here at the Township Building. On Friday afternoon at 1 p.m., we're going to have a public meeting at the Township Building. And on Monday, March 16th at 5 p.m., we're going to have a public meeting at the Township Building for the purpose of going through the reassessment for anybody that has a question related to it. So if you know people who have questions, or particularly after we go through this tonight, and you want to direct people, I think we can help them in addition to what's at the county website, just a chance for people to come and talk. So I'm going to kind of quickly go through some of the things that are out there for us. First of all, the reassessment was ordered by the court in 2017, and we might ask why, and that is because there was inequities in real estate values across the county. We have inequities right here in the township. Some of our newer houses have a higher valuation than some of our older houses, even though when you would go to sell the house, they might be sold for the same exact price. And the idea is to try to bring those inequities into place so that they're equal. The reassessment will actually take place, the new assessments will actually take place effective January 1 of 2021. And so everyone's tax bill for the 2021 year will be when this goes into effect. So still, everybody should have already received their tax bill for 2020 for the county and for the Newtown Township. But the school district tax has not yet gone out, and that will go out, and it will still be on the current assessment that we have right now. The school district will not be until the July of next year, 2021, when they're using that new assessment. And so all of that's going to be into place. Like I said, you should have received in the mail, most likely either Saturday or today. I know some people, quite a few people received it Saturday. My house, I didn't get it till today. So the market value statement, and that's a preliminary market value statement. That amount should be what you think you could sell your house for on July 1st of 2019. That's the date that they picked, is the basic date. So they've gone back and they've done an assessment of all properties within the township, and they're trying to figure out what the price would be that if you had a willing buyer and a willing seller in an open market, nobody was being pressured into anything to buy, what a willing buyer would pay and what a willing seller would sell it for based on that. So if your house was bought or sold within the last year, it should be pretty close to what you bought or sold your house for. If you bought your house for less, there's an appeal period. Right now that's going on. It says in that sheet you have 10 days to schedule an appointment and go. You don't have to go in within the 10 days, but you have 10 days to schedule an appointment to go in. If you look at it and you determine that you think that that sale price is not right for some reason, for example, you think that sale price is not right because you know the fact that you have a cracked foundation, or you have a stream that runs through your basement that's probably not taken into account every time it rains, your basement floods. Those kind of things. They would encourage you to come in, take pictures of what you have, take it in with them and say, yeah, I understand that you think my house would sell for $500,000, but I really think I can only get $450,000. And you take that in and you tell them that and you show them why, and they will look at it. That time, they will not make a commitment to you of what the change will be, but when they send out the final, which is supposed to be in July, you will know whether or not they took that into account and whether or not they felt like that was not already taken into account in the number that they gave you. So that is what they're doing, and we can expect those final assessments, like I said, in July. Again, you'll have an opportunity to appeal, but at that point, you're appealing just your individual piece, and that whatever you do would not necessarily change your neighbors when you do that. If you appeal now, you could be changing everybody's in a certain area. Like if you say that there's a stream that runs back behind our homes and that it floods regularly, or something like that, that there's something, or there's an easement that runs down all of the neighbors, you may be impacting all of your neighbors' assessment downward or upward, most likely downward if you're taking in something like that. So it's a very important time to go and take advantage of that if you don't think you could sell your house for the amount that they've put on the bottom of that sheet of paper. And so that's important. The county did this using Tyler Technologies, and they're the group that's doing a lot of the work right now, looking at the properties. And again, like they did that to make sure that there was no inequities in the value. I'm going to look at 5 properties for you tonight. These are made-up properties. I picked these literally out of the air. So I didn't take properties that exist in Newtown. I'm just trying to show you how this works through the process. So what would the new assessment mean for your taxes? So let's say currently today, House A is worth $150,000. After they did the assessment, they may say it's worth $300,000. House B, I put down, what if it's worth $200,000, but it's actually deteriorated over the last 20 years? And we have a couple of those in town where people really haven't maintained those properties. And so they probably might not be able to sell them for the same amount which they bought them for. So that may be a case. So I threw one of those in so you can see what the impact there is. And then there's House C, where most likely the person has done an add-on or something like that in addition, and they've come up with a value that's even greater than just the double amount that the other one had. And then you can see both House D and both E just went up a certain percentage. And they're different percentages. I purposely picked different percentages so that I could show you how that would work as we look at it as a whole. So the one thing that I wanted you to notice was, for example, the first one went up 100%. The second one, actually, I went back and changed it, just left it at 200,000 and did that just to show that a zero there. 150% is what the other one went up. House D went up 67%, and House E went up 81%. So you can see that you may get a variety when you compare this to your neighbors. You're not comparing this with your neighbor. What you're comparing is what you can sell it for, not what your neighbor's property is valued, because they may be valued because they've added on a room. They may be valued different because they've shown something that when they did the initial assessment early on, they numbered the rooms in the house or things like that. That may be different than yours. The house may not be exactly the same footprint. Your land may be worth more. There's a lot of things that can change the value of what you could sell your house for. So this gives you two different, or the scenario of a couple different possibilities. And so what I wanted to show you, first of all, currently our millage rate is 3.015. And if we were to take those properties and times that out, this would have been the taxes that are paid. The first house, $450,000, and on down through that. And at the bottom, we would collect $3,919. So you obviously know I did not use what our actual collection rate is, obviously, because we collect a lot more than that. But I'm showing you this and what it would be. When we do our taxes for next year, we are required to take whatever the total new assessment is, and in this case, the new assessment of these 5 houses was $2,350,000 compared to $1,300,000. And so that number, I divided by the 3,000, the $3,919 divided by that number determined for us what our new millage rate would be. So that's what our new millage rate would be next year. So when we start next year's discussion of budget, we're going to have to convert our new millage rate to be whatever our new base is as our total assessed value. We need to be back basically at zero to whatever that amount is. Right now, we're roughly bringing in 5.8 million. When we do that number at the end of the year, I'm going to have to convert that back and be at 5.8 million for all the existing properties that we have today. And so that will be the first thing. So everyone who receives this needs to understand the millage rate is going to change. How that affects you will be determined by how much your increase or lack of increase was. So for example, the first house, like I said, it shows that their taxes actually, though it doubled, it went up 150,000, they had an 11% increase in taxes. And basically the answer that the county is saying to this, the guy from Tyler who was giving the presentation said, this person will now be paying their fair share of what their taxes should have been. And so they've been paying less than what they should have been over the last several years, while other people were actually paying more. And so, and you can see that as we go down. Another example, the House B, they actually had a 45% decrease based on this. And their assessment rate, I chose it didn't change. I don't think we'll have many in Newtown that be the case, but we might have a couple. House C, it went up quite a bit. That was the one that I projected that probably had some kind of change in the property. They've added something, and maybe it wasn't caught, so theirs went up 38%. House D, even though they didn't do anything new, their value didn't go up the same, and so they were -8. And then finally, even though House E, who went from 400,000 to 725,000 in evaluation, actually shows no difference in their taxes relatively. That's $3. I mean, it's almost nothing. So I want you to understand that if somebody calls us today and says, what are my taxes going to be next year? I have no way of being able to tell you that today because I do not know what the total value of assessment that we're going to have for us yet is. And until I know that, I cannot answer that question.
So you want that last column, you won't know that until you have all the assessments in.
Correct. And so, but what I can say is that once we get that, I can go through and help people on that and help them understand it. But right now, the key is, and what they need to understand, and what I wanted to show, what was important about this slide, is that even a house that went up $325,000 in assessed value might have a zero tax increase. And so it really depends on everything else that happens in the township, the school district houses, so that's us and Marple, and what happens throughout the 200-plus houses in the county when we're looking at county taxes. So if Newtown has gone up more in value since 2001, I believe was when the last assessment was roughly went into play. If Newtown has gone up more in value than another area of the county, then our portion of county tax may go up. Or if ours is about even with what everybody else has done, it may stay the same. So we won't know that until we get further into the process. And the same thing is true with the school taxes. What I would say, though, is what's important to understand is two things at this point. One is if you don't think that number is something that you could sell your house for today, if you think it's too high, figure out what you think you can sell your house for, and you should be meeting with Tyler Technologies in the county now and making sure that you go in and meet with them. Number two is that if you feel like there's some reason why your personal house isn't worth that amount of money, you need to take that in as well, just to make sure that you've had that conversation with them. The next piece is to kind of sit back and wait until we get finals. You'll get that number and you can still appeal based on what that is. And then we will not, I'm being told that the township will not expect to receive its number until sometime in November, probably the middle of November, which is going to make it very difficult on us for the purposes of doing budgeting. But we'll figure that out, and we'll be prepared and have things in place as we move forward. And so I wanted you to be aware of that.
So it's revenue neutral for the township, for the school district, and for the county, but it may not be revenue neutral for the individual homeowner.
Yes, and so I want to show that, you know, a particular homeowner might experience a pretty large increase. And anyone, and I say this, there are some restrictions for the school district that are over top of this, and so when I say this, I'm saying this broadly. There is a law that allows any municipality, normally you can do a tax increase of any amount that you choose to in any year. You are limited this year to a 10% tax increase. Not that we're going to do that, but that is the limit. But that does not mean that's the limit of what the individual might experience. I wanted to show, for example, the first example that I showed, they've experienced 11% tax increase before any tax increase that the township, the county, or the school district might do next year. And so I just want you to be aware of that and understand that it's each individual. The whole idea is that at the end of the day, that everybody should be paying their equitable portion for this. Any questions that you have?
Is this the same presentation you're going to be given? Is that what
I'm
you said
going
at
to
the
basically go through the same presentation every night, plus I'm going to have some handouts from the county has given us for frequently asked questions and some timelines that we will hand out at each one of those evenings.
And just, since I think everybody knows the answer, but clarify, we don't really have a choice in this. This has been mandated that we have to do
This is mandated by the court. The county didn't have a choice. The county was told it had to do it, and the county did it. And they had a deadline of 2021 to have it done by.
Any questions for Mr. Neese? If you are a member of the general public or you're here this evening, I would ask that if you have questions, let's hold them and attend one of the meetings that Mr. Neese indicated and advertised, so that we can then have every benefit of everybody there and ask those questions. So,
Yep.
if nobody on the board has any questions for Mr. Neese, do you have anything else under your?
I do have a couple other things that I think are important, and if you give me 1 second, I'm going to change camera controls. So the next thing that I want to share with you and give you an update on and let you know, we have put an update from the county on our website related to the coronavirus. We will be updating that on a regular basis, and most likely what we're going to do, based on the fact that I understand they're going to be sending out regular updates, is we're going to put their link on our website under the news that you can actually take and go to their link and see any of the latest information they have. We are following the county's guidelines and county's suggestions at this point related to meetings and all of that kind of stuff. And they're saying as long as they know where people in the county are getting the coronavirus from, they're not discouraging us from having public meetings like this one tonight. But if it gets out of control, that may be something that they would talk about. They are encouraging people to follow whatever the CDC gives as guidance, and they're also encouraging, obviously all the important things of hand washing, don't put your hands near your face, all of those kind of things on a regular basis. If you know somebody's sick, be very conscious of being close to them. They're saying 6 feet is the area that you should stand back from people and things like that. We have had discussion with our police department. Our police department has made some minor changes to what they do in responding to 911 calls with the ambulance. Related to that, they've been given masks if they need to enter into a place. And so we are doing everything we can to protect them so they can continue to protect us. And so we have to put those things into place, and they're following the county protocol just like we are with everything else. We have increased wiping down door handles and all of those kind of things, which we should do anyhow, anytime it's flu season. And so we put a protocol into place that we do that during flu season just to help reduce that, but we are doing that here. In addition to that, our Public Works team is coming through once a day and pretty much wiping down any horizontal and vertical surface that they can get, chairs and door, like all of those kind of things. And we're really trying to stay on top of that and make sure that we all stay safe. The thing to remember is that this is affecting senior adults pretty heavily, or people that have lung and respiratory problems. If you know that and you're not feeling well, please stay away from folks who might be susceptible in that way. We've told our folks here at work, if you feel sick, please stay home. We give you sick time. We want you to take the sick time. We don't want people getting sick here. I would ask, if you're the public and you feel sick, please don't come into the building if you know you are, and particularly until we know how everything is being transmitted. So that's my update, and we will continue to work with that. It will be continued to be declared or be put up on the website. We are going to, I'm going to be meeting with staff tomorrow to finalize, but I'm asking the board to agree to declaring a state of emergency, not because we're in a position that we're overly concerned, but it will allow us two things, and I want to be clear of what the two things are. One is if funding does become available from either the federal government or the state government as we go forward, if there is something that comes about, we would be able to call on that funding. And number two, it also puts us in a position that if we were to have to purchase something that costs more than the $11,000 or the $21,000 that for the bidding process, it allows us to move more quickly. Obviously, we will always do our best to make sure that we get good value for the taxpayer dollars, but this would help us if we didn't have to necessarily go out and do an RFP if I need to get the building cleaned immediately because we've had an infection inside the building. So those are the kind of things that would be the case. We're trying to make sure all of those things are put into place if we need them, but hopefully we will not need to do any of those things. We're just taking all the precaution steps, but we will.
You'll have the next meeting for us? Or?
We'll have that for you. The way it's set up, you've given permission for myself, George, and the chief to proclaim that. I'm basically putting it out tonight. If you were to not want us to do that, you could direct us accordingly, but that's what we're going to do.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
All right. Finally, wanted to give you an update. We had put out for advertisement 3 positions, the communications position, public works position, and custodial position. We've gotten resumes in for all 3. You will notice further down on the agenda tonight, I'm asking to re-advertise for the custodial position. We are looking for some more candidates for that particular one that would be ones that we would like to bring into the organization. We received over 40 for the communications position, so it's going to take us a little bit to get through all those, but we will. And I think we received 18 for the public works position. And some really good candidates. George is going to interview at least 9 of those 18. So I just wanted you to know that and let the public know that we are still working on that. We haven't forgotten it. We're just working through the process. I'll probably do a couple of those interviews either actually through phone right now just because of everything that's going on.
Any questions for Mr. Neese? All right, moving on.
Hold on, I just have something. Are we not going over that stuff tonight?
I had forwarded proposals to Steve late this afternoon. I can go over them if you'd like, but I figured that might need time to absorb them and figure out if you want to authorize them.
I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait until the next meeting, but the only reason why I'm bringing it up is because we said the last meeting we were gonna discuss it at this one, so if as long as we can be prepared to discuss it at next month's meeting, I don't wanna hold this up any longer since we have 2 land development plans coming in here. But it's been about, we've been kicking it, so if we can have it discussed next meeting, excuse me, we'll do it next meeting.
Forward the proposals to us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that
Yeah.
way we have a chance to review them.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
but in terms of tonight, I just wanted to follow up, because we had on the minutes that we were gonna discuss it tonight, so I just wanted to follow up with it again.
We got them this afternoon,
I
I will
put-
get them out to you.
I put 3 proposals together. One was for the Heights, one was for Glendale Road, and one was for the Tyson, Horton, Lewis, and Cayley area.
Got it?
All slightly different approaches. The Heights and Tyson and Cayley are very similar, just slightly different in scope as far as size and effort. But the one in Glendale, because there's already an existing funding program that we think it's perfect for, it's called low-volume roads, that the Delaware County Conservation District is putting out. That I crafted a little differently because it's directing field survey information towards some form of plan rather than a higher-level planning study, which the other 2 are.
Perfect. And
Okay.
just so everybody knows what we're talking about the stormwater management issues in those three areas. So thank you, look forward to discussing it next meeting. And then Steve, how are we doing with the ordinance for the dedication of the curbs? That was something that, oh, excuse me.
15.1.
All right,
Yep.
so in addition to the curbs, how are we doing with the street dedication?
So right now, we're coming back to you, actually, I'm going to talk to you regarding the curbs. We've put together, I'm having the staff put together a list of all the projects that we're working on. For instance, George has been, this last 2 weeks, focusing on finishing up 2 grants and also putting together the required reports he has for the county for recycling and a few other things. And so we've done a little bit of work on the curb piece. It needs to go out to Eileen and to Joe for review. I'm not sure that's going to, we're looking at whether that's an ordinance or whether that's going to can be done by resolution, so we're going to have that piece finalized hopefully at the next meeting. And then we're going to have a list for you of all the things we're working on and allow you to give us some direction as to what order that you would like to have things done, because there are some things that we're trying to do that are normal duties that we have to get done, like the audit and things like that right now, and a lot of our resources are being spent on that and getting these grants, and we've not been able to do the quality work that we need to do to give you what you need for the curb piece.
Yep.
But if you were to tell us that you'd rather us do the curb piece than what we're working on, we would do that. But a couple of these things, we don't have a choice.
No, I
We
got you.
have to get that done.
I got you.
And so I've told George and the staff to finish what they're getting done, but to get me this list, and I will be able to share it with you. I've gotten all but 2 of the different staff members' lists. I hope to have that for you for a full discussion and hope to actually get it out to you for review before we come to the meeting so that we can go through and talk about what they are.
Got it. Thank you.
You good?
I'm good.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Denise? Okay. We have, under fund transfer, we got 2 items. One is to transfer money from Newtown Township Consolidated Account to the Escrow Account. The other is to transfer from the Escrow Account to the Newtown Township Consolidated Account. So I'll read to both. I think we take them in one motion. The first is request transfer of $4,927.50 from the Newtown Township Consolidated Account to the Escrow Account. The other is to request a transfer of $3,627.50 from the Escrow Account to the Newtown Township Consolidated Account. Would anybody like to offer a motion on that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap to conduct the fund transfers as noted in 10.1 and 10.2. Any further questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda are bills. I had the opportunity before this evening meeting to review the bills on the check register dated today, March 9th, 2020, in the amount of $138,408.90. And it is my motion that we approve those bills. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Any questions or discussions on the bills? Any questions from members of the general public on the bills? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on, land development approvals. The first is consider approving the final plan for the Fourth Amendment to the Ellis Preserve Town Center Final PRD Plan as recommended by the Planning Commission at their February 27th, 2020 meeting. Mr. Edelman, I see you're already there. Please take it away.
Yes, good evening. Greg Edelman here on behalf of the applicant. When we were last in front of the board related to this application, it was for tentative plan approval, I believe sometime in October or November. The final plan for this Phase 2 of the Ellis Town Center was submitted in December. We appeared before the Planning Commission in January and February, went through a number of comments and some revisions and some changes. Your township engineer has reviewed the plan, county planning department has reviewed the plan, fire marshal has reviewed the plan. We've been able to, we believe, to comply with their comments, and we received a recommendation for final plan approval for Phase 2 from the Township Planning Commission at their February meeting. So we're here this evening asking the board to grant the same, consider and grant the same with respect to the Phase 2 application. We have a presentation this evening that'll bring the board up to speed. If you recall, at the end of tentative, the main focus is to bring the architecturals forward, to show the layouts, building materials, et cetera, of the units. And the board, I believe, is tasked with determining whether the final plan is consistent with the tentative plan, and if so, granting approval based on what was originally approved by the board as part of the tentative. So unless there's any other procedural questions, I'd like to have Lisa Thomas go through the presentation. I believe it's been pulled up onto the screen. Please. Mike's right there.
Go ahead, Lisa.
All right. Good evening, Lisa Thomas with Glack and Thomas Panzak. Very pleased to be here. We've been working hard and coming up with answering the questions of the Planning Commission and refining our plans for everybody. This is, the first slide is generally showing you the layout of the entire Ellis Preserve, and we are on our last phase, which is very exciting, I think. Next slide. Next slide focuses in to where we are today and what we've been working on. Starting at the southern end along Westchester Pike is the town center core area with the park and the retail and restaurant section. Moving to the north is the area with the office building, hotel, and then as you continue up to the north and to the east, you've got the event venue and townhomes and apartment buildings. We're starting at Westchester Pike here, getting in a little closer, showing you a detail rendering of the town center core with the retail and restaurants. And you can see the centerpiece is the park area, or where the green is, for the town center. There's a lot of significant pedestrian connections throughout this whole area. We've got sidewalks all along Charles Ellis, Winding Way, Westchester Pike, and then along it's called Road D at the moment, that bisects the whole site in that area. Sidewalks, crosswalks, to provide safe connections and emphasize pedestrian connectivity. So what I want to walk you through are rendered perspectives of some of the architecture within the commercial section, retail section of the town center. And it gives you a flavor for the scale and what it will look like along with the green space. So this is buildings that face the town center green. And this building faces also the green area. The right-hand side of this building faces Westchester Pike, and the left-hand side faces into the green. And this building faces Westchester Pike, just to give you an idea of what things will look like. This slide shows a little bit closer within the area to show you the different areas and spaces that we spent some time designing and thinking about. The lower portion of the drawing shows the green, which would be artificial turf, so it's an all-weather surface for people to use. We've got an area on the upper right of the green that would be suitable for impromptu stage, sitting platform, place to put the Christmas tree. In between, to the right and the left, you can see some little alcoves and vias that connect to the parking lots, providing more intimate spaces. North of the green, we have an area we're calling the Grove, which includes more intimate seating and fire pits. This is also what I'd like to point out is all the outdoor eating space set aside for the restaurants and informal seating spaces on either side of the green with umbrella tables. We've got informal benches and intimate seating places along the outside. Along with on the green, we've got loose furniture for people to move around. And I'll go to the next. These slides are perspective renderings of what this space could look like and what we're planning it to look like. This is the northern end. Road D is at the bottom of the drawing, the one that goes across the site. And you would be entering in. Behind you would be a restaurant, the hotel, and the office building as you're walking across the street. You can see planters with seating, opportunities for public art. This slide is of the Grove area where we have trees, natural paving, fire pits, opportunities for gathering, harvest tables or picnic table type areas, overhead lights.
How big is that green area and that Grove area?
Can you give a length and width, Jason? I'm going to get help from our civil engineer with the scale.
I calculated it before. I'm calculating about 14,500 square feet.
Can you give us, do you have a length and a width maybe to help?
It's about a third of an acre.
Okay.
We're good.
Are you good?
We got it, we're good.
All right, thank you. Okay, next slide,
It's about a
please.
third of an acre, it's fine.
Here, we're contemplating ping pong tables for people to have activity and interaction. Next slide. It's a closer view of the green area, looking from the north to the south. And this is a bird's eye view, looking to the north.
Can I ask a question again? Why artificial turf?
It's all season,
Yeah.
and it's low maintenance, and it can handle a lot of wear and tear.
Got it. We're set on artificial turf?
That's what we're talking about at the moment, right? Yeah. It's good drainage also. It's excellent drainage.
It's also very hot though, right?
Well, we have trees around the edges. We've got the umbrella tables. This is also a lower version at eye level, looking to the north also, to give you a sense of scale. Closer up of the platform that could be a stage or seating area. And then this, I wanted to show you a couple pictures of some more of the smaller alcove areas with seating, landscaping at the corners of the buildings. And this is a via that is a area that connects you to the parking lot where you might arrive through into the green, into the town center core, with landscaping, overhead lighting, seating area. And the next one is what it could look like at night.
And where is that? Is that between C4 and C6 on the plan? I don't know.
C4 and C6?
Or and between C5 and C7 across from it, I guess, right, they're kind of mirror.
This is on the west side specifically. All right, next one.
So at night, that would be lit, so
Yep.
it doesn't feel uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Are there windows along that way too, or no? That face that interior? I'm just curious.
Yeah, go back, can you go back? It's more architectural elements. There might be some windows wrapping the corners depending
I guess it
upon
would
what
depend
building
on
it
the
is.
tenant.
Yeah.
Depends on the tenant
Yeah.
at this point. So we have, some of these areas we're looking at now, we may have
Something we might turn
restaurants on
around the
either
corner.
side. We may have some outdoor seating wrapping that area. And, probably some glass turning that corner.
Okay, next one. And then this is a bird's eye looking to the south of the area, just to give you an overall view of the whole town center green space. The Planning Commission asked us, I'm ready for the next one. Planning Commission asked us to take a look at Westchester Pike and show them what Westchester Pike looks like with the landscaping and the building and parking lot along there. So what we did was we did renderings, perspective renderings along Westchester Pike, and we're starting at number 1 on the right-hand side at Winding Way and moving our way to Charles Ellis. And I'm going to show you images as we move south on Westchester Pike. So the first image is at the corner of Winding Way, looking to the west. And you can see the landscaping, sidewalk, and this is at eye level as you would be crossing the street. And there's a fence around the parking lot also. Next one. This is heading west along Westchester Pike.
Are the cars at grade? Like, how over at the first watch, they're below grade, are they at grade over on this side?
I'm going to ask Jason to talk about the.
I know I'm
grade.
jumping, but I figured I might as well go while it's hot.
Happy to have the questions. So these cars are below grade, correct, at this point?
Yeah, on the eastern side of the Phase 2 retail area, the site will sit lower than Westchester Pike. As you work your way up towards the west side of it, roughly right about the center of the town center, it's going to be at grade with Westchester Pike. It's perfect location for a pedestrian connection. It takes you right up through the spine of the center. By the time you're all the way to the west side of it, our site is going to be sitting a little bit higher than Westchester Pike.
Got it. How low below grade is it, just out of curiosity?
It ranges around 6 to 8 feet below
Okay. And what is it over at the first watch?
grade. Roughly the same, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so this view is as if you're in a car driving down Westchester Pike. This view is as if you're walking along the sidewalk in the same spot, just to give you an idea. And then we're right in the middle of the site, looking across Westchester Pike, so we're on the southern side of the road. And we're headed towards Charles Ellis Drive here, and the view is from a car, front seat. Same area, but walking, what you would see. And then this is at the corner of Charles Ellis and Westchester Pike, and you can see a glimpse of the wall in between the trees. I wanted to make sure that you could actually see the wall and see where it was located and the height of the wall. And then the last view, that's a car view, and this is on the sidewalk walking view. So you can
How
see
tall is that
it's-
retaining wall?
It's going to be about 6 to 8 feet high on the west side of
And
the.
it
of the retail.
ranges in height as you move. It's not one
Yeah.
long length of wall.
No.
People don't realize, but across the frontage along Westchester Pike, there's about 20 feet of grade differential from the east side to the west side.
So we've balanced
Yeah.
it between the two corners. Okay. Next. The next slides are elevations of the buildings in the town center area, the commercial buildings, in case people were interested in specific elevations and the locations of the buildings. Just to give you an idea, there's some pictures of materials also in these slides. It's just a taste of it. It's not every building. But it's pretty consistent throughout the town center. That building, the past building faces Westchester Pike. And this is facing Westchester Pike with where the windows are.
We're not proposing to put the word Newtown Square inside the building like that. are we?
No.
Okay.
No, there's no script on this.
Okay. That's fine. We all know where we are. I don't know that we need to define that.
Okay. You can probably just keep scrolling through this just to give everybody an idea. This is,
And this is not a representation who's gonna be there, these are just made-up names, and you'll come in separately for sign packages and things like that.
We have a comprehensive sign package we'll be bringing in to show the board.
Right. All right.
all right. So this is adjacent to the hotel, this building. We're on the north side of Road D. And now we're moving to the center portion of the town center area. This includes the office building on the right-hand side with the deck parking, the hotel on the left, and 2 restaurant spaces, one attached to the hotel, one across from the hotel. North of the hotel is the event venue, and I'm going to show you some elevations of these buildings. This graphics shows the 4 sides of the hotel, with the top slide showing you the arrival section with the porte cochere for the hotel. The bottom elevation shows the street side within the town center of what the hotel looks like, and you've got the 2 end pieces of the hotel. The next slide is showing you a layout of the event venue. And this building has somewhat of a barn-like look and really interesting roof lines, little garden out front. You can go to the next slide. Here's the,
I just have a question about the event, because this one's larger than what we currently have, right, at Ellis. Would this have multiple events at the same time, or is this just to have one event at a time?
It's just really made for one event at a time. It's at 18,000 square feet. The Ellis Ballroom, the whole building is about 20,000 square feet, and the event venue itself is roughly between 12 and 13,000 square feet.
It just looks a
So
lot
it's,
bigger.
yeah, it's about 5,000 square feet bigger.
Okay. And how many parking spaces are with the event?
all the parking is together on the site. It's not necessarily next to the, it's in
Right.
front of the event.
So, yeah, they're gonna have valet service, and so the,
Oh, right, with the office building?
correct.
Yep.
So, like a typical 200 person wedding typically generates about 40 to 45 cars. So, we're gonna continue with the valet service like the Ellis Ballroom. The parking deck is pretty
It's just, you
close.
know, everyone wants to park closer, and what's closest to that are the residences, so that's why I was just
Yeah.
Oh,
curious
that's, yes,
about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
understood, yeah. So you can see the materials, stone, standing seam roof, board and batten on the sides. The next elevation is the office building. This is facing the interior streetscape. And the lower level, there's a retail space in the lower level in the corner of the office building.
I'm sorry, did we get to the hotel yet?
We passed
We
that.
passed
The
it.
hotel, I'm sorry. The hotel is going to have like you have now in the hotel where you've got that, like a bar area,
Correct.
and that's a service bar for the hotel. Is this hotel going to have, because it is kind of, it's more, it flows differently than what we have currently, you know, on the first phase that's done? Is that going to have a restaurant, bar associated with it?
It will have a restaurant and bar. It's an AC Marriott Hotel is the brand. They,
You passed it, Steve. One more.
Keep going.
so I'll send the board some information about the AC Marriott. They, you know, typically the biggest meal is breakfast. Lunch and dinner. There'll be food available, but it's a very limited menu. With all the full-service restaurants that we have coming, we're
So
really
you're not going to
encouraging
have a
our guests.
restaurant, like you know, like in some
Name
hotels
restaurant.
that, you know, like, I'm thinking of Center City, like the Lowe's Hotel, they had the Burb, I forget what it's called, but it's a
Bank and
standalone
Bourbon.
restaurant, so I was just curious if that's what you were gonna have in the hotel as well.
Yeah, they pretty much do like bar snacks.
Okay,
It's sort of a tapas menu where they do like a lot of meat and cheese plates and things like that, but not a sit-down meal.
okay. So, and how many restaurants and liquor licenses again were you targeting?
So we get one license with the hotel that we'll be able to share with the adjacent restaurant. And then we're going after 3 additional liquor licenses right now. So total of 4 liquor licenses.
So really, I'm sorry to belabor the hotel
No, no.
bar restaurant thing. It's more for when, like, you check in and you want to go have a glass of wine or something, and
Or at
then,
the end of the
like
night,
a service kind of
before you
thing.
go to bed, have a drink, you go to bed.
Right, it's like kind of a service
Correct.
for the for the hotel. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Don't be smart.
All right, so this,
I know.
this elevation is facing Winding Way of the office building.
So I'd like to note on the office building, we're constructing a wood timber office building in Tredyffrin Township at the corner of Old Eagle School and Sweetser Road. We're bringing that same concept here to Ellis. So,
Pretty.
yeah, it is.
Oh, nice.
And there
Wait,
does,
can I-
I'm sorry,
can I
does
just go back to this real quick?
the office will just have office, right? It won't have any retail on the first floor at
Yes.
all?
So there is a small retail, we have a,
If you go back.
Okay.
There you go, right there.
right at the corner, right there. We have a small little bit of retail. I don't think it exceeds 5,000 square feet.
It's more to have activity on the first floor.
Yep. If you don't mind, Stephen, the next slide. I'd just like to point out, this is the top level of the deck, which will be on grade with the rest of the street and the area around the building. That area is like a bowl along Winding Way. So we have 2 levels that sit below that deck.
Okay.
A total of 334 spaces underneath there, or including the top.
Moving on, we're going to move on to the multifamily and townhouse section. A little closer here. We've been working on articulation and further designs for the multifamily building. We'll show you some elevations and what the courtyards look like. We've also spent some time rejiggering the townhouse section to address some of the planning commission's concerns. So this plan reflects that. And looking at it a little closer, you can see in the middle, going east to west, is a boulevard drive through the townhouses, kind of aiming at the front facade of the multifamily as a sense of arrival for the multifamily building. We've got a muse or a green to the north here on the plan, showing green space. The buildings are oriented around the green space. To the south, we're showing arrival from Winding Way, parallel parking along the road. The boulevard has parallel parking also on each side. Through some of the rearrangement or the adjustments to the plan, we've been able to capture some more green space on the eastern side of the lower townhouse section. We've got a little green space in front of them, which we're really happy to be able to capture. And then to the north, the northeastern section of buildings, we've been able to keep this green space also that we previously showed. So the townhomes are either facing green space or they're facing the road with the sidewalks and the street trees.
How big is the yard on the ones that are on the road?
How big is the what?
The ones on the south here?
And I'm
How
sorry.
big is the front?
The
yard?
front, let me just, the front of the building to the sidewalk in that area is approximately 20 feet.
Yeah, that's a detention basin.
And it's larger than what's required by code. The code requires 10, allows 10.
And where there breaks between these houses, are there windows on those, on the sides as well?
I'm going to show you some elevations, so you can see that. Yep.
I just couldn't tell from, it looks like some of them have it, I couldn't tell if all of them have it.
So just to give you a general orientation about what we've done. The change that occurred was the upper level with the upper portion of the townhouses with the mews. We had dead-end alleys in that area, and so what we did was we looped the alley all the way around to allow for better circulation within the alleys. And the turning radiuses all work with the fire trucks, and we'll be giving more detail on that with our next submission. Okay, so we can go to some of the elevations of the townhouses. So this is, if, looking onto the boulevard, and you can see the boulevard green space in the middle. You can see that the homes have landscaping. You can see the buildings on the sides of the, the windows on the sides of the buildings. We're showing balconies. We're showing wide entries to the buildings, and we're showing some different articulation and colors of materials. This next one is showing townhomes fronting on the Mews. The green space, you can see porches here, again, the broad, wide steps going into the home, bump outs in the building, roofs over the porches, and the windows on the sides. And you're looking, again, down the boulevard towards the apartments, right here.
I'm not being facetious when I ask this. Is that grass or is that going to be artificial turf?
That is real grass.
Okay.
And they will have an HOA to maintain it.
There you go.
It will be mowed.
Where's your material boards for the townhomes?
I don't have material boards with me for the townhouses, but I could describe it.
So we're gonna keep them articulated like this, we're not gonna go what we did originally on the old ones. We tried to originally come up with the one color, you're gonna keep them differentiated like by similar colors?
Well, the idea here is to build what you're seeing.
Right, but remember last time you came here, we had that
I don't,
discussion.
I'm trying not to relive last time. That's why it took us a while to get back here.
Yeah, no,
With the,
as long as we can agree that you're gonna have differentiation, here, you're not gonna have everything.
if there's anything different, I have to come back here and see you.
Yeah, but I think what Mike's talking about is differentiation from some manner before.
Well,
whether
like it's
colors.
shown, what's presented.
Yes,
yeah,
What's
yeah.
presented.
That is correct, and I think that's a requirement of the ordinance as well.
So we're going to see something similar to what you're presenting.
And if it changes, we have to come back to get your review.
We're just.
I think that's what he's
being
asking.
upfront.
That's
Yeah,
what
no,
he's
yeah,
asking.
Yeah.
And Andy does take stuff off buildings these days, so
I know.
we're not gonna, if this is what
You
we're
show
showing.
us, yeah, that's what
and
we
this is
want to
what we
see,
agree on.
yeah.
I mean,
And not, because you might not build them.
Is this our portable? Here, John. So, yes,
Because you might not be building these, right?
that's correct.
That is correct.
You will be building the commercial buildings, and we see these
Right, right.
nice sheets that's very clear that we're gonna get this type of, stone, this type of roof. It's very defined.
There's a draft approval resolution before you if you choose to approve this tonight. One of the conditions is, this is attached as an exhibit to the resolution, this presentation. They gotta preserve the architectural features as set forth herein unless they come back and get approval from the board to
Right,
change it.
and Mike, your concern is well noted. You know, if a builder comes in and wants to do something different, they have to come back.
And we just wanna make sure that we're just doing what we did on the other ones, where whatever, if you're starting off 3 feet, 4 feet off the ground, that the foundation has either
Something.
stone or brick or something there. We're not gonna have repeat performance of what our friends over here at Toll Brothers. did.
Understood.
Yeah, we don't want to go out there meeting and have to argue this
Well, I'm
out.
just saying that now, because these guys
Yeah,
might
no.
not build this.
Right.
I mean,
So I
and I
just wanna
think,
make sure it's defined for whoever they sell.
I think what we're saying is we like what we see, we just make sure this is what we're going to
Looks
get.
good.
Agreed.
That's,
There's one more slide for the townhouses. And here you go, this is on the east side, in front of the green space there. Okay, the next slides are related to the multifamily building, the apartment building. And you can see that we've been able to articulate the building a little bit more. Before it was just a box in front of you. We have architecture, there's an interior courtyard, and then we've adjusted the location of the pool to the southwest of the building a little bit, mostly because of the sun angle, to be able to, and to provide some more amenity space.
Okay, I have a couple questions before we move past this page. On this plan, you don't show the reserved spaces, but on here you do.
Yes, I'm going to
So-
move into that as we move. This plan was done a little earlier, and we've spent some more time on the plan, and are going to show you reserved parking spaces.
So there's
Let
gonna
me
be.
make sure I have them here. Maybe
There's
we
gonna be more.
might have to go back.
um,
Let's go back to the,
There's gonna be more hardscape
so I
than
would,
what shows on that picture.
yeah, no, it's going to be less hardscape than what's on this
In the
picture.
back?
Yes, let's, can we go back to the plan view, past the townhouses? Keep going, right there. So if you look at this plan to the upper, the northern corner of the building, you can see more green around it. So this is a further developed plan than the sketch I just showed you, and you can see the green area where we're gonna do reserve parking in that area.
So you are gonna do reserve parking like it shows on the engineer plan,
Yes.
not like it shows on the diagram? The sketch, which one's right, the sketch or
This
the
one
engineer
is,
plan?
this one's
This
correct.
one is correct.
This is
The
correct,
sketch is correct, not the engineered plan here.
correct, because that was done as part of, that was done a number of months ago. So we've been further refining the plan, the engineer's plan.
Because as we look at this engineered plan, that parking extends across the entire back of the building, which is not shown on your sketches.
Right, so as part of the refinement of the design of the multifamily, we've been able to put more parking spaces under the building. So that's
Okay.
allowed more green space on the ground. And then we took a look at it and said, hey, let's do some reserve parking and create some more green space on top of that. So again, we're just constantly refining the plan.
And I think we like what's on
Okay,
this.
good to hear.
As opposed to what's on C-303 of the site plan.
Yeah, correct. You probably can notice too, the configuration of the townhouses too does not match what is on this.
Right, that's what we're getting at, yeah.
Yeah.
There's been several iterations of the townhouses as various boards. Planning Commission has asked for changes, this board has asked for changes. So we're gonna make all the changes at one time.
Right.
This reflects where we are today with the requested changes.
Right, and that
So
dovetails.
This is what you're presenting
these
as
will
well.
look- These will be this.
That's
You're
correct.
gonna change the plans to match this.
That's
Okay.
correct, and that's what
Yes.
Rich was mentioning earlier.
That's fine.
Because there's more green.
Right.
on-
Yes.
on
Oh,
that.
yeah,
Yep.
definitely more
See,
green.
That's been the issue with this, because what you guys do inside is good, but I'm more concerned about what we see. You know, when I drove down 252, you know, to Mike's point about Goshen Road and 252, the way those houses are, you know, they're like right in your face. So I'm trying just to, you know, as a community, you know, it's for the community as a whole. It'd be nice to have more green and not, you know, these looming buildings when you're going down 252, that you feel like you're in King of Prussia. You know, because those buildings are, you know, I know that was the pitch before, that it's like that, but we are not King of Prussia. We're not on the expressway, we're not on the turnpike. You know what I mean? So that's been my issue with the density on this.
Understood.
So, and I just want to be clear that, you know, there's more green and that's more dressed.
And we took the opportunity when we realized we had an opportunity to grab the green and to address the parking.
They've taken spaces out and put more green in.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we'll go back to the apartment building. All right, so I think we talked about this slide with the courtyard and the pool. Here's a picture of the front.
I'm sorry, can we go back to that other slide? I just have a question about where the pool is and that driveway that you've got there. And you've got these townhouses that are the townhouses facing interior?
Yes.
And the rear is that driveway,
No, the townhouses are facing
the apartment building?
Yes.
Yeah, so this plan doesn't reflect the changes we've made. The previous plan that you just had up with the white buildings shows the changes, where that building has been pushed back. We've been able to gain more green space in front of that townhouse building. I think we might have to go back, Steve.
Here.
Here, right there. So if you see, right there, we've been able to, with our change in our plan, we've created a little
okay.
green in front of that
Because on
townhouse.
this plan, it doesn't.
Correct, that plan is old. I'm just showing you, just
Thank you.
to bring you up to date. Thank you. As it relates, I'm specifically talking about the multifamily building there. Okay.
And what's that, you probably don't know off the top of your head, but where you made that green space along that, because that driveway is pretty, a lot of blacktop on that driveway. And
So,
I get it, it's I guess that's loading for the apartment building,
Well,
The
against the
lower
parking
part.
building is angled parking.
okay?
So the driveway is one way. As you go down towards the townhouses, it's a one-way driveway. There's parallel parking in front of the townhomes for their guests. And as you loop around, you've got angled parking for access and tenant use in terms of
Yeah.
drop-off and pickup in front of the apartment building.
Our
So it's
our clubhouse is right here. So we have that parking out front so people can run in, get their packages. I mean, things have changed quite a bit with apartments as far as clubhouses go.
Right.
They're a lot bigger. This clubhouse is over 8,000 square feet. We have Amazon lockers in
Yeah.
those. So people, we
Refrigerated
can
lockers as
sign,
well.
refrigerated lockers, so we can sign for packages for folks.
Right.
So we have those spaces specifically out front there so they can pull up, run inside for 10 minutes, go grab their packages and so forth, run back out. Also for leasing purposes too.
Now, if I live in the townhouse, can I join the pool in the apartments? That's strictly an amenity
Strictly
for the
apartments,
apartments.
correct.
Thank you.
It's hard to
I know,
supervise.
yeah.
Okay, next slide. This is the front of the apartment building as you arrive down the boulevard.
Good questions.
How tall is that?
It's 4 stories.
5 stories,
5 stories, yeah. Yeah, 5 stories, I'm sorry, 65.
Yes.
65 feet?
And that's the limit, right? That's the limit that we had set.
I like the way that looks.
Next slide, this is an aerial view looking towards the clubhouse, the pool, and you get a little peek into the courtyard of the apartment building here.
Are the apartment buildings you guys have now 65 feet as well? Just to get an idea, like the ones that are
Yeah,
constructed?
they're around- Yeah, they're about 10 feet less.
And where's
Yeah,
the,
the grade differential there too, so.
and the grade at the existing apartments, are they higher than this is? So they'll be about the same height? I mean, they will feel like about the same height because of the grade change?
Grade slopes down.
Yeah, I think this one's gonna be a little bit lower. Yeah, it'll make up some of it.
Okay. This is the north facade corner looking towards the east.
And I know this is not part of tonight, but was this apartment building the one that was added from when they changed the tentative plan? I wasn't on the board when they changed this back in October.
Which time? There's
The
like
most
4
recent one.
minutes. The most recent one?
Because
No,
what
it
was
was
the-
always there.
What was, so the most recent one, just by way of background, was what, a reduction in the commercial? And an
Correct.
Yes.
increase in the apartments and townhouses?
Correct.
So how much apartment and townhouse increased based off of that change they made in October?
It was, majority of it was townhomes. My recollection was it was about 600,000 square feet for residential, but I don't remember what the breakdown was between townhomes and apartments
I can't answer.
off the top of your head.
Can't off the
Yeah,
top of
it
my
was, it was about 400,000 or 500,000 less square feet of commercial.
But these apartments were always part of that tentative
Yes.
plan?
Yes.
Apartments in that area have been part of the tentative plan going back to '08
Yeah.
in that area.
It was the townhomes that were brought in that were new.
Got
Yeah,
it.
the townhouses are new.
And what's the number of the townhouses? I'm sorry, I know you said that before.
It's 63.
63?
We
Yeah.
started out at 70 and
Okay.
ended up reducing it.
Got it.
Okay, let's hit maybe the next slide. This is to give you an idea of what the courtyards might look like internal to the building. Give you a flavor for it.
And that's, and there's all garage under that?
Yes.
All garage. Similar to two of the buildings, 2 of the 3 existing buildings both have garages underneath.
Okay, and then the last slide is just back to the plan of this, of the area. And any questions? Any other questions?
Next slide.
Looking at this plan where it says hotel office, what's right across from that, right up on Charles Ellis Boulevard? Is that a restaurant?
Yeah, this is a 8,200 square foot restaurant right here.
Okay.
Yep.
And the event venue, is that going to be another Finley?
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. Going to be operated by Finley.
And we're set on that artificial turf.
I don't know how much you've been at the Valley Forge Town Center, but it's been.
I have not.
It's been
It's
very,
a-
very
Go
effective.
take a look, you'll get a feel for what we're
Yeah.
trying to achieve in terms of the,
We had that in the piazza.
Yeah.
And it really does, because of the wear and tear. Leonard, with real grass, you're gonna have dirt spots and dogs digging.
and you're gonna have to
Artificial
cordon it
turf.
off for maintenance and,
Yeah.
and repair
You're
too.
gonna, yeah, and it just.
I mean, they do yoga classes, they do
Yeah.
parks in there, they do movies, they do concerts, they do all different types of stuff for people that come to shop there. So it is probably the most heavy trafficked area of those centers.
We have 4 fitness tenants as part of the project. And we hope to be utilizing that area for early morning workouts and things like that.
Got it.
You can't see it.
And because this is a PRD, we're just saying our standard is just if there's a change, a dramatic change from when they did the tentative.
Correct, it's consistency. But you do have the architectural review, which is why we're heavy on that in the presentation. That is a cornerstone of the final presentation.
And it'll all tie into the trails, the walking paths that you just put in at Mainline Health, then leading to AmeriHealth, and then back in through the whole
Yes.
development.
Yes, and I don't know if we have that slide in there with the connectivity. We didn't put
I
that in.
don't have that.
Yeah, we've showed it during tentative, and I think there's a, multi-level
You do see people
community
walking from the
circulation.
hotel, though, when you're in the first phase where the Whole Foods is, you do see people walking from the hotel, going over to Wawa, coming back through, and just kind of, it really is interesting.
So the connectivity between, say, SAP and where the town center will be, that'll be open by October. We have a phased move-in of the office building starting October and working its way through February. So all that area in front of, between Mainline Health and AmeriHealth will be open, lit, all the, all the paving will be complete, lighting, and so forth. As part of the AmeriHealth project, we're also adding a piece of trail that's going to ring around the 15-acre open space area. We also have the connection we'll be completing over at the Toll Townhouse area all the way to Goshen Road. We've been working with Toll and the township to figure out a way how to better connect to that corner at 252 and Goshen Road. So we'll be completing that also this summer. So this summer, you'll have the connection at Goshen Road, 252, from the John West House through the Toll Townhouse property, connected into the existing Ellis Apartments. So that complete connection will be made. And when we get to town center, then we'll pick up that connection from the existing apartments through the town center, and then working its way along Winding Way through the property.
Winding Way has sidewalks on the one side currently,
So
right?
as part of this development, we'll be adding sidewalks on the north side of Winding Way, all the way.
And then what happens at the intersection of Winding Way and 252?
So
Anything, or?
not heading north. When you turn that corner, no, not heading north. Because then you start running into the grade differential starts rising at that point to where the Friends Meeting House.
Right.
So, yeah, so you would cross the street, when you get to the corner of 252 and Winding Way, you would cross to the Wawa side and then cross over 252.
Okay, but
There's push
but is
buttons
that part of the plan, that crossing at 252, or no?
It's there now,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
So, but adding the sidewalks is part of this plan.
okay.
Those road improvements, are they being done before you guys are completed this? I mean, I know you don't have that much control over that, but.
Right, and Eric Gostinchuk's here from TPD. He'll talk about briefly the road improvements as part of this phase, but as part of AmeriHealth, we'll be starting the expansion of Route 3 from Charles Ellis down to the shopping center. We'll be starting that work, call it May 1, and that work will be complete by October. So from Charles Ellis down to the shopping center entrance, often, like right across from Casey's, call it, you'll have 3 lanes in each direction. We've done all the pole relocation work. We're working within the right-of-way. We've selected a contractor, and we actually have a pre-con meeting in a few weeks on that with the township. As part of this phase, we're in design right now. We'll be completing the 3 lanes from the west, from Charles Ellis all the way to Boot Road. And on the east, it'll be from the shopping center to Rhodes, or Bryn Mawr. Bryn Mawr, yep. So as part of this, we'll be required to get another HOP permit.
He's got a few more slides. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Lisa from the board regarding architecturals? I think the next set of slides is engineering, both drainage and our traffic guide. So I guess if we're okay with the architectural, we'll move on.
Great.
Okay.
What do we have on the next ones?
There-
It's blank.
Right. That would be correct.
So, and I don't know if we need to really dive into the, oh, you're going to dive into these or no?
No, he's going to keep going.
Yeah,
One more.
keep going down, yeah, not the black one.
That's a blackout?
There we go.
That's what it looks like
Oh,
when
we
the power
showed
goes
you,
out?
you just couldn't see it.
Yeah, it was what you wanted to see.
It's my best work.
And Jason Korzek's here from Bowler. I don't know how much you want to get into. We have the stormwater plan shown here.
Does anybody have any questions regarding
I mean-
stormwater? 'Cause
I actually do.
Okay,
Not
Jason.
stormwater specifically, but I know that there was a conversation at the planning commission about the parts that are considered a driveway, and that they weren't gonna have curbs. And so we've run into all these issues, you know, in the township where there are no curbs currently, and then this, you know, when these big storms come up and, you know, there's waves of water, you know, wiping out people's, and I know that it's a homeowners association, but, you know, can you just speak to how these driveways are gonna be dealt with?
So the area that was a concern during the planning commission was in the townhouse area, specifically on the northern side. It's not well represented on here because the layout's not the latest and greatest. But along the northern side where the loop is, that allow better circulation through the townhouses, we will be curbing them. The question is, are we gonna go with a mountable curb or a full depth curb?
Okay, there is a curb.
But there will be curb, there will be a depressed curb across the driveways, and we're not gonna keep staggering up and down with full
Yeah.
reveal and then depressed. When you get through the buildings, each one of the townhouse buildings, with all the driveways right next to each other, that area will just be a depressed curb, but it will be pavement on the other side, it'll be the driveways. So there won't be any susceptibility, I guess, for erosion in those areas.
Okay.
Really, the areas where you have around the loop where there's no parking and no buildings, we will be curbing them. Whether it's gonna be mountable curb or a full depth.
When you say minimal curb, you mean curb and gutter?
Yeah, no, it's a Belgian block curb. Basically, imagine a Belgian block curb. Instead of sitting it up straight,
Is it sideways?
it's 45 degrees on the edge. It looks really nice, and I think
You're
it's,
gonna have that as a detail and drawing?
yeah, sure, if that's the way we're gonna proceed, yeah.
And you're gonna maintain all that anyhow?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, they're maintaining it, so.
Yeah.
No, it'll last.
Oh,
It'll
yeah.
last a lot longer than a regular curb.
Oh, yeah.
It's not cheap to put in.
No, it's not.
I just wanted to be sure that that was addressed, because, you know, we're trying to fix, as you can hear, as you heard earlier, we're trying to fix the situation now. I just didn't want to, you know, to make sure that the planning commission was heard on that.
And do you have all underground detention here?
Mostly.
Is that basin's already for the rest of the development?
That basin is for the portion of the Phase 2 development. A large portion of the area that's going to be developed in Phase 2 is currently draining to that one at the corner of Winding Way and 252. We will be modifying it. Right now, it's 2 separate basins. We're going to be making it into one larger basin, in addition to a series of 6 underground detention infiltration basins that are scattered throughout the development, mostly in the commercial retail phase portion, more so than the residential. But there is some in that northern corner above the multifamily building we handle the impervious coverage in that area.
And speaking of that, this is separate from it, but the existing apartment building that's on, where's that little street now? You know what, at 252, where Sweeney Funeral Home is, whatever. You know how there's that retention
A
basin?
small rain garden?
Yeah, is there plans to landscape that better?
Yeah, it's been an issue, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's been an issue. We're planning on regrading that, redoing that all, planting it. We're just waiting on the edges. We can't plant in the basin
Right,
itself
right.
because of the
But you can
modified soil.
cover it.
Yeah, we just
I
been
mean, you
waiting
can
for the weather.
camouflage it, so to
Yeah,
speak.
we're not happy with the appearance of it. That'll be taken care of probably in the next month or so.
Okay.
I don't.
Oh, wow.
Do you have more? Are we okay on stormwater? No?
Ask him.
How is this phased? I know we talked about you're gonna do commercial first, and then you're gonna move into the residential, but the question is, if you're gonna be building a multifamily, you might sell the townhomes like you did on the last one. How are you gonna manage that? Because you have to get to the multifamily through the townhomes.
So, we're gonna do all the bulk earthwork at one time. We're gonna do all the utility, all the wet utility work at one time. We're doing all of the site work for the entire project. Just because of the cut and fill situation that we're in. We're grabbing soils from here to there. We have 25,000 yards of fill required. So we're gonna go in and do all the earthwork at one time. Set the pad sites for the apartments and or for the townhouses and apartment buildings. Right now, our schedule is, if we move forward, it would be to start the bulk earthwork in June, start delivering the retail pad sites by October.
This year?
Yes, oh yeah, we have commitments. We'll be starting the vertical work in October. We'll be delivering core and shells for the retail buildings by the spring, March-ish, in order to turn those over for fit-outs of the various restaurants and other tenants. And so the retail portion, and that also, the Finley venue, the hotel, and the office building will all be starting at the same time also during that period. So we're really building out all of this at one time. Now, the structures of the office building and the hotel will be up, but will be a little behind the rest of the retail that's going on.
How many contractors you foresee with this? Is one guy doing the hotel, one guy doing the office, and the rest of the guys doing the retail?
We have one site work contractor. Right now, we have one contractor for the retail, one contractor for the office building that may or may not do the hotel. So that there could be 3 GCs on the site within the commercial section.
It sounds like we're gonna have all the site work in first, so it'll be sensitive to get out of the mud, and then they'll just be building structure, hopefully.
You know, you're basically creating pad sites and you're,
Okay.
you know,
Good, I mean, that's the way it should be managed.
Anything else on stormwater?
Anybody have any questions on stormwater? Nope, let's move on to Eric.
Traffic?
Good evening, Eric Ostenchuk, Traffic Planning and Design. John kind of stole my thunder here with the traffic, but one thing I wanted to point out that came up in conversation with the, is this echoing?
Yeah, here, you just take one.
At the Planning Commission, this is on Winding Way at the hotel and Road D, I believe you were calling it earlier. That's the existing configuration that is there with the crossings and the pork chop island. You can see it's a small concrete pork chop, and the rest of it is painted. Discussion with the Planning Commission centered around improving the pedestrian connectivity there and trying to hinder left turn movements as well as cross traffic. cross vehicular traffic. So the next plan is what we've determined to improve that situation, essentially moving the crossing to the southern side of the roadway that provides for adequate sight distance, increasing the size of the pork chop island to raised curb, and then you have, with the benefit to moving the crossing to the south side, is you have a refuge area where people can make their crossing in 2 maneuvers. On the southeast corner, you can see that the radii is going to be bumped out into the intersection more. The southeast corner, Steve. Yeah, bottom right corner. That's bumped out to make the crossing shorter distance, and back to where we were in the median, we're increasing that median north to try to dissuade the illegal through movement there. So that was a discussion point with the Planning Commission. Just wanted to run through that with you guys. In addition, you can see we're really giving some advance warning for those pedestrians as well.
This is not signaled, right? Like
Correct.
if I'm a pedestrian, I'm not pushing a button and a light is flashing.
Correct.
And then in the median, I don't know if you can answer this or not, Eric, that median, is that just concrete, or is that, is there any landscaping we've got some landscaping in there now, right? You've got some grass or something?
There's landscaping on the north end as it widens out. I don't believe that there's anything.
Okay.
If there is, it's a small strip. But in this location, you'll have your landing area for your DWS, truncated domes. It'll just be a walkthrough.
And it's depressed there when you walk, but
It'll
that
just
other
be-
part is, like if a car is coming down, I'm just concerned if somebody's in the refuge, that a car could, clip somebody standing there. So if it's elevated a little, just
The-
to slow a car, I don't know if it'll
The
slow a car
the
down
nose
or
will
not.
be elevated. The only place that will be depressed is in that little square area.
Oh, okay, but this will still be elevated, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
and
that
that's,
answers
and
my
that's
question.
8 feet wide, minimum is 6 feet for a refuge, so it's
Okay,
a little bit
I got
wider
it.
than it needs to be.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that it wasn't all flat,
Mhm.
that you're standing in there, and, when you've got a little kid and you're holding, the child, and the child's dancing around, that they're not, like, kind of, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
No,
get
that's anticipated to be raised curb.
One of the other concerns, both the township staff and the planning commission, was the left-hand turns out of there that people are continuing to make. So that's why, in meeting with Stantec and the township, came to the idea of creating a longer
Extending
piece
that
on
median
there.
north.
Yeah.
And as well as the larger pork chop raised island.
There's nothing really to keep anybody from crossing that way anyway, but
No.
we'll do it anyway. I mean,
As Lisa noted, though, you'll see on the plan here, there's fencing planned for all around here to try to avoid people just darting across, try to push them towards that crossing.
Okay, got it, thank you.
And Steve, the next plan, I think, is the overall. Yeah, so you've seen this, most of you. Mr. Altieri hasn't seen it, I don't believe, but this is the plan developed back in 2012, or finalized in 2012, with regard to phasing of traffic improvements. As John noted, well, as you can see, the loop road's been constructed, the pink along Winding Way and Clyde Lane, as well as Bishop Hollow, has been completed. Construction is moving forward this spring and summer on the blue portion, which is through 252 intersection, to provide the 3 lanes in each direction, and then the eastern portion in green and the western portion in orange will be completed as part of this phase.
Winding Way going to Westchester Pike, is that only 1 lane now, or are we losing a lane?
Winding Way going to Westchester Pike is 1 lane currently.
But it's 2 lanes going to 252?
Yes, it's 1 lane going southbound at a yield condition, and you can only go right there.
Got it.
And it is 2 on the approach to 252. There's a left turn, a left through right.
Any other questions for her? The last slide.
That's really it. This was just in case you had some questions about setbacks.
Oh, is that on here?
Yeah, last page.
Yeah, just in case, typical dimensions. And I know, Tina, I think you would ask one question.
Yep.
And this does show the updated layout, especially in the townhomes in the southeastern corner with the additional green area.
Okay.
But that's it from our end.
Does anybody from the board have any questions for anybody in the presentation? Does any members of the general public have any questions regarding this particular application?
I'm sorry, John, I do have a question on this last, on this last sheet here, on Winding Way, where the dimensions aren't for these end houses. Is that landscape, is that going to be landscaped?
Yes.
Along here?
Yes.
So then this way won't, you know how where the houses are now behind
Yeah, there'll be
the west
significant
house,
landscaping.
they're like looming.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know if that was gonna have landscape.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, I'm finished.
Sorry, for your townhouses, and I guess you might have an idea of it based off of what you're selling now, but what is that age demographic? Just out of curiosity, because I'm thinking of the school district.
townhomes?
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
You don't know yet?
Yeah, we don't know yet because, builder hasn't been selected. We're showing you typical demographic.
But but your other ones that you're selling.
Here's what I tell you, Leonard. You know, going into the Ellis Apartments, we weren't sure what our demographic was going to be, and it turned out to be an average age of 57 years old with an average income of $175,000 a year.
I'm not concerned about the income, I'm just concerned about the
No,
age.
but I'm just saying, 25% of the folks work on campus, another 25% work from home. We noticed a lot of people at the pool during the day during the week last summer. So we started getting a little more surveying our renters. And the other 50% are a mix of retirees that spend 6 months in Florida, 6 months up here. But I think these townhomes are really, it's going to be the same sort of demographic. It's going to be the young families, the young professionals, and it's going to be the empty nesters. It's going to be a mix, yeah.
And how many bedrooms are there, or they vary?
So typical, they're 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. I mean, that's what people want. That's.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see any 4 bedrooms here.
No.
You may see 2, depending on the size and the model and who the builder is.
Right.
And the apartment buildings, the multifamily, how many rooms are they? Or they vary as well? I know it's 220 units altogether, but I guess I'm asking.
200 units.
200 units, excuse me, I know it's 200 units altogether, but what are they looking at? Are you looking at, is there 2
Twos and
bedrooms in
ones.
there, 3 bedrooms in there?
It's a mix of studios, 1s, 2s, and we had, in our current building, we had 5% 3s. So.
Good. There was a hand up in the audience. Whoever wants to jump up first at the podium. Please state your name and address for the record and be heard.
Dan DeFrancisco, 26 Jeanette Drive, Newtown Square. Question regarding the restaurant section of the plan. It seems like all the sides of the restaurants are more or less public facing as opposed to, let's say, like the Chipotle or the Mod, where there's an actual back. Where is the trash, rubbish, recycling? Where is all that going to be stored? And is it going to be visible? Is it going to be behind something? How's that? What's the system for that?
When you go to the, we have remote trash enclosures scattered through the commercial area. Yeah.
The beginning.
So the ordinance requires us to have enclosures around those trash areas. So they'll have enclosures, there'll be, if you look at the current phase 1, it's stone. So we have those enclosures cladded with stone, metal panel, same materials as on the building. That's the same intent here. We're trying to make them as architecturally, compatible to the buildings as.
Right, I think my main thing was that if they're all more or less publicly accessible, road behind there, or you're not walking.
Yeah. It is.
Is it attracting varmints and
No, sorry, guys. Let me answer this from the operational side. You know, we have trash pickup. We don't have any rodent issues currently. I mean, we're picking up this trash pretty frequently. We also have built into our leases that there's no storage of any trash materials or anything else at the backs of those restaurants. None of that stuff. We have common area grease traps for each building, so they're underground. We maintain them, so there's no grease traps you'll see in the backs of these buildings. You won't see anything stored on the backs of those buildings. I mean, that's all written into our lease documents.
Good?
Location,
Does that answer your question, or? Okay.
Come on up, Nate.
Good evening, Nathan Glazer, 3538 Cayley Road. As I look out here, I think I'm the only person in this room whose current habitation backs onto this project. Oh, no, you're on the other side of Westchester Pike, though.
Yeah, but I'm as close as you are to it.
All right, keep going.
Go ahead, Nate.
Keep
I'm
going.
just kidding with
Thank you. The question I have is, it's not with the applicant per se, because I think the project approval speaks for itself, and they've done a good job, and I have no argument. The problem is that I believe residents of the Cayley, Tyson, Horton, Lewis Road area are about to get a more unpleasant surprise. Right now, making a left turn out of Cayley Road during the bulk of the day is an adventure in life-saving, your own. A lot of times you have to make a right turn to make the left turn, which means you go up to Ellis, you make a U-turn, which will probably be banned in the not-too-distant future. There'll be some point where somebody's going to say it's not a good idea. And making a left turn out of Cayley, I see on the future, isn't going to be there all that much. So the question is, this town has to do something to deal with the fact that a large number of longtime residents live in an area where they're periodically virtually prisoners, because your only ways out are Goshen Road near Culbertson School. Well, that's not very good, because you got a school zone up there, you got a church up there, so that's not a good real place to get out in a hurry. Or you go all the way down to Malin Road, snaking your way through the development, and when you get there, you pretty much got the same problem, because traffic on Malin Road is stacking up at Burnmar Avenue from the traffic light. So I think that the township is going to have to face a very ugly problem of what to do with creating another means of egress. When this comes online, those residents are coming out of there, they're turning out onto Winding Way, coming down to 252 to the traffic light. No?
Anybody who wants to go north on 252, in other words, has to go down Charles Ellis Way, all the way out to 252, and then make the left turn, which means they wouldn't necessarily be driving past.
So they wouldn't be coming down Winding Way and making a left to go 252 north?
They can't get out and make the left turn onto Winding Way.
They can't. Okay, because the existing problem is there now. We're getting out, and depending on what's done with right on red and a few other things at that intersection, it's only going to get worse with increased volume. So I think, it's not the developers or the applicant's problem, it's the township's problem to start looking at what are you going to do to deal with hundreds of homeowners who are going to become increasingly frustrated because they can't get in and out of their homes and their development. Now, I think there is a logical solution, but you won't do it. That would be to extend Tyson Road down and let Tyson Road intersect with Winding Way on the other side. Then people could make a right turn, go down the traffic light, and they'd have a way out. That's pretty ugly, because it's going to mean condemning some homes and extending the road. Nobody wants to do that. I don't think anybody has the gumption to do it, even though that's probably the only way to solve the problem in the long run. But I guess I'm just going on record by saying that, where I live and the other homeowners there, none of whom are here because they don't really take an interest in this stuff, but they're facing a really horrible problem of not being able to get in and out in a timely way during typical times of day of travel. And at some point, it's going to create a irresolvable problem either there'll be more and more illegal turns, or somebody will just keep making lefts and get banged eventually.
Thank you, Nate. Any other comments from members of the public? Seeing none, it's a pleasure to board.
Motion?
We've got one here. Is that a resolution? Want to read it?
No, he can read it.
Okay, go ahead.
Resolution number 2020-12, approval of final plan for phases 2 of Sector 1 of PRD plan for Ellis Preserve Town Center relating to retail, office, restaurant, assembly, venue, apartments, and townhomes. Number 3, resolution. Now therefore, the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township hereby resolves the recitals set forth above are incorporated herein by reference. B, the application is generally consistent with the fourth amended tentative plan, and any changes contained therein are not contrary to the public interest, provided the conditions set forth below are met to the satisfaction of the township engineer, and therefore a public hearing is not required in accordance with Newtown Code Section 172-100.36.G1 and H2. C, the application is conditionally approved, subject to the following. I, applicant must comply with all conditions and promises set forth or incorporated in the approval resolution 2019-32, except as modified by the current application. 2, the applicant must comply with and or correct all comments, concerns, deficiencies, and/or conditions set forth in the aforementioned township engineer review letter and fire marshal review letter to the satisfaction of the township engineer. 3, the applicant must comply with the February 27, 2020 presentation as Exhibit A, including but not limited to the architectural features and traffic and pedestrian circulation, and amend the plans conditionally approved to include the traffic changes to the satisfaction of the township engineer, and change to the architectural features must be approved by the Board of Supervisors. 4, applicant must obtain approval from the Newtown Township Municipal Authority for sanitary sewer connection and design, and enter into such agreements for connection and treatment as are required by the municipal authority. 5, applicant will execute a stormwater management and maintenance agreement and contribute to the township stormwater management maintenance fund. 6, applicant shall obtain or maintain an NPDES permit for stormwater discharge. 7, architectural features for all structures will be presented to the township for approval by the Board of Supervisors and to ensure compliance with the PRD design guidelines.
Yeah. Looks that way.
Number 8, phases 4 and 5 of the 2015-04-30 Master Off-Site Road Improvement Plan must be completed before any occupancy permits will be issued for any structure related to this application. And 9, the township engineer shall have final authority on which plan pages will be recorded, but recorded plans shall at a minimum include all traffic circulation, turning radii, and emergency access plans satisfactory to the township engineer. D, the following waivers have been requested and are approved. 1, section 148-43-B4 to allow for the use of HDPE pipe instead of RCP pipe. 2, section 12.A.4 of the town center design guidelines to allow shrubs and herbaceous plants within tree planting pits in lieu of raised edges or low fencing around street tree plant pits to minimize trip hazards and encourage stormwater flow into planters. And 3, section 12.A.7 of the town center design guidelines to reduce parking landscape islands from 10 feet in width to 8 feet in width, which will still be planted to increase parking spaces. E, the following waivers with applicants shall comply in all respects with all applicable township codes, ordinances, and regulations, as well as any applicable county, state, or federal regulations. F, applicant shall enter into a developer's agreement, financial security agreements, and stormwater management agreements related to the improvements in the application in a form acceptable to the township solicitor and township engineer. G, this approval is contingent upon payment of all outstanding professional fees, escrow replenishment prior to filing with the recorder of deeds, except as properly challenged with the MPC. And H, the township manager is authorized to execute any agreement related to the implementation of this approval resolution, resolved this 9th day of March 2020 at a public meeting of the Board of Supervisors. And that's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Before we go on, I just want to clarify one thing on here. Under C3, it says the applicant must comply with the February 27th, 2020 presentation. I believe that should say March 9th, 2020 presentation. February was the last one.
Yeah, I'll.
Will you amend your
Yeah, I'll
motion?
amend the motion, March 9th, 2020 for number 3.
You have to read the whole thing again.
You're okay with that, Mr. Russo?
No,
Mike?
yeah.
All right, motion was made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Russo to approve Resolution 2020-12, granting approval for the final plan for Phase 2 of Sector 1 of the PRD plan for the Ellis Preserve Town Center. Any further questions from members of the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
That was
Thank you
easy.
very much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have consider the land development approval for the Marriott Hotel.
We just got warmed up too, aren't we?
I know.
You
I
better
was
watch out.
just looking at it. Well, we're one building, so I hope we'll be a little bit shorter for you. Again, my name is Ernie Angelos. I'm an attorney with the law firm Raphael Pupio. I have the pleasure of representing Newtown Square Hospitality Realty Company, LLC, which is the developer of the hotel and operator of the hotel. As you may recall, we were here back in, I believe, November. There was some extensive discussions and feedback. We were able to take that feedback with additional feedback from the landlord and did negotiate a slightly revised lease premises in addition to moving the hotel. The net result of that is that I'm proud to say we are at 40 feet now from the riparian buffer rather than the 25 feet that we were here originally seeking. What's that? It was 25, yeah, it was 15. The last time we were here was 25 feet. So we are now at 40 feet at its closest point. Throughout the rest of the property, there are areas where we exceed the 50 feet, and there are areas we are between 40 and 50 feet. So this evening we are looking at a 10-foot accommodation. Additionally, we did receive the engineer's review letter of March 6, 2020. And I believe the engineer, when we go through the presentation, will indicate that we can and will comply with those recommendations. So this evening, in short, we are seeking a preliminary and final approval from the board for the revised plans as of February 24th, 2020. At this point, I'd hand it over to our engineer, Rick, to go over the presentation.
Sure.
Good evening, board. My name is Rick Stratton. I'm the project engineer for this project. As Mr. Angelos described, we're here tonight seeking the board's approval. The main difference between this plan and the one we had before you in November is that the hotel has moved further away from the stream that crosses in back of the property. The required buffer is 50 feet, and this plan provides, at its closest point, we're 40 feet within that stream. And there are other areas where we're between 40 and 50, and there are even some areas where we give a little bit more than the 50 required. There's a retaining wall behind the hotel, which more or less is parallel to the stream behind it. The retaining wall separates basically the hotel from that natural feature in the back. The hotel itself, per the wish of the Marriott brand, wants to be visible from the traffic traveling on Westchester Pike. Therefore, that's why the hotel needs to be elevated at the current grade it's at, and this plan provides that. With pulling the hotel away from the stream another 15 feet, we did have to realign some of the access roads. There's 2 access roads into the site. One's coming off of Westchester Pike and one's coming off of Alice Grim Boulevard. We realigned those roads slightly, just so the intersection is now in an ideal place for traffic to enter the hotel property. And some other basic data about the hotel. It's 127 rooms. This plan proposes 151 parking spots. The code requires 1 parking spot for every hotel room, and so therefore we need 127 parking spaces. This plan proposes 151. The hotel wanted some extra parking in front of the hotel, just because they know their users want to park close to the actual front entrance and not have to walk a long way. But there are some excess spaces over to the side of the site as well.
Do we have a copy of the plan?
I was just asking.
We're diligently working on that?
So the retaining wall, how high is the retaining wall?
At its highest point, the retaining wall is about 26, 27 feet high. The previous plan might have been 28 to 29 feet high. So there was a slight reduction, just a
So
couple
you
feet.
pulled it back away and you reduced the height of the wall?
By a couple feet, yeah.
We had talked about narrowing the road at the last go-around. Did you need to narrow the road, or did you narrow the road?
The access drives are now 27 feet wide. Previously, our previous plan had them at 30 feet wide. That also helped us gain some space. But we feel that still meets the traffic demands for the site.
There was an issue with parking, I guess, on the other, you couldn't make some of this because of the way the parking was configured. Did you do anything with that?
Yeah, the one sort of interim plan that was before the township and being reviewed about 3 weeks ago had only about 131 spaces, I believe. We added 20 more spaces in front of the hotel. And the way the roads are realigned now, it allows for that more parking in front of the hotel.
You can't come up with it, you're gonna have to draw it on
I have a half-size set here. It's got some of my notes on it. I'd be happy to hand it to you and pass it around. I didn't bring multiple.
When Mr. Nawn and I met with you, we talked about it. You pulled the building up, so from where you were 25 feet. Now you're at 40 feet at your closest point.
Correct.
And then it varies from there.
Correct.
And then the other thing, John, was it was also the parking spaces, but he said he's got more in there.
Yeah, they're gonna have sort of an agreement with the parking beside to use that, but
I thought I saw something.
you may need to pass that plan up in absence of anything else.
working on it. Our one project manager said he has it on flash drive.
Hey, this one also.
Yeah, it's a lot farther from the wall.
Yeah.
Right, we had showed some on the other side of that drive there.
So this 2.5-story wall lifts this hotel up. So when we're on Westchester Pike, what does it look like from Westchester Pike?
The driver's eye, if you're
I
at
could actually lower the height of the wall.
the right turn-in only entrance, the driver's eye is probably looking right about at the third story of the hotel. It's a four-story hotel. You're looking at right about the third floor. So the front door is still much lower than the driver at that point.
Parking here, there, it's really was part of whatever is gonna be here, which is proposed would be. Put that parking there, which is minimal.
And then there's still no other plans for the balance of the site, so that you've got this 2.5-story wall along the stream back in there, right?
Sorry.
Just so it doesn't look like a canyon when the other parcel comes in for that. I mean, is that parcel gonna wanna be elevated as well, and then you're gonna have like these two, like, you know what I'm saying about a canyon back in there?
I understand your question. At this point, the design for that parcel, or that pad behind has not been, we haven't engineered that yet. We don't know how high up that's gonna be.
Is there an intention that the land on the other side of the stream is developable land that would see something at some point?
At some point, but not part of this application.
I think it's safe to say that the land directly behind the hotel, and Rick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's one of the more difficult locations on the lot to actually build. Certainly, I think it would want to be developed, but it is difficult pads on the site.
Why is that? What's?
There's wetlands.
Wetlands, okay.
And floodplain. Yeah, the wetlands and the floodplain kind of bisect this entire site. And so we have the grand scheme of things, the idea is to develop on both sides, but we haven't engineered or done a grading scheme for any of the development in the back yet.
I'm just concerned that, that we'll have the same situation behind that, and then all of a sudden, this stream isn't accessible, and, it's problematic. But you can't answer that on this project.
Correct.
We do appreciate you working, my fellow supervisors have worked with you to pull that back and to make it, so at least you're not on top of it.
What is it at its furthest point? I know it's 40 feet at the closest point. How far away is it?
At its furthest point, I estimate it to be where the retaining wall sort of feathers out and goes back to grade at 0 feet. Probably up in this area here, they're probably about 60 feet, or 55, maybe 60 feet.
So how much of the 40 feet? What is the length of the wall that's within that 50 feet? What is that distance? You know what I'm asking?
I can answer you. It'll take me a minute to scale it, but I'd say
Give me a ballpark. I don't need to be exact.
total length of the retaining wall is about 700 feet. I'd say
Closest point's right here.
You can drive.
yeah, I'd say out of that 700 feet, maybe 500 of it is between 50 and 40 feet.
Yeah. See this here, see this line?
Before that, it was all 15 feet, right? Correct?
Way back in
50 or 100 scale plan, so yeah.
June, it was 15. Back in November, it was 25. Was the closest. Now we're at 40. Correct.
Here's the
Oh, okay, I see it now. This is just the.
right.
And this is a ground lease, right?
Yes.
Not that it matters, I was just curious.
The idea was there was room, was we needed to extend the trail through. We
Yeah.
extended it. Good job, I think. Good with it?
Property the way it is, I think they did a good job.
You wanna read this one?
Guess what?
Does any board member have any other question with this particular application? Any members of the general public have any questions regarding this application? Nate, Larry?
Greg, you'll be able to follow when you know who you are.
Okay, you just read that and then start here. Seeing no comments, Mr. Russo would like to offer a resolution.
Resolution. preliminary final land development approval parcel 30-29-0216 Westchester Pike, Marville, Marriott. Whereas Newtown Square Hospitality Realty Company LLC, the applicant, and Joy 4 Newtown Square Village LP owner have submitted plans to approve an application for preliminary/final land development approval for these premises at parcel 30-29-0216 Westchester Pike, approximately 55.913 acre site, master site, at the northeast corner of the intersection of Alice Grimm Boulevard and Westchester Pike, related to the development of roughly a 3.4 acre portion of the site with a Marriott Hotel and related improvements on the master site plan as set forth in the plans entitled Preliminary/Final Land Development Approval, Land Development Plan for Marville, Newtown Square Residence Inn by Marriott, consisting of 28 pages and dated June 25th, 2019, along with associated post-construction stormwater management report and stormwater drainage calculations, and an erosion and sediment control report, all last revised on February 24th, 2020, as well as post-development drainage area plan dated June 25th, 2019, and last reviewed October 8th, 2019, and a parapet height drawing prepared by Newcomb Associates dated January 24th, 2020. Whereas the zoning hearing board granted variances on June 20th, 2019 to allow the building height of 60 feet from Code Section 172-75-1 and to allow parking spaces to be 9 feet by 18 feet from Code Section 172-2. A lot of drawings.
No, it says, therefore be resolved, just start there.
Is there?
Yeah,
You don't have to finish resolution? Okay.
I know.
Therefore, let it be resolved, the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township hereby resolves and conditionally approves the aforementioned application and plans subject to and conditioned upon the following. Owner must verify in writing that this is a joint applicant on the application and the plans, and must enter into a land development agreement with the township and the applicant, acknowledging and agreeing to its obligation and restrictions on their plans and this approval. All the other preliminary and/or final plans of the master site plan are superseded and terminated with this approval, and any other structures that may appear on the plans beyond a 3-acre hotel's project site and associated grading, access roads, sidewalks, stormwater management, landscaping, and similar infrastructure in the master site plan directly supporting development of hotel and project site are conceptual only, and the approval of the plans does not in any way approve or endorse any other structures or that may appear on the plan. Any portion of the master site plan configured in any way, including grading, slopes, stormwater management, and any other similar changes to directly support the development of the hotel on this project site as depicted on the plans will not be further disturbed without further township land development approval, whether or not such change would ordinarily require land development approval. In consideration of any future land development approval on the portion of the master site, consideration of any such requested approval or waivers will include a consideration of how such changes will affect the project site and the hotel, and whether any hardships were created